Welcome to the Why Did I Get Cancer podcast. I'm Deborah Herlax-Enos, a small-town girl turned TV nutritionist and healthy living expert. I design health programs for the average guy or gal, including those average guys named Metallica. On September 1st, 2020, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. I asked every oncologist the same question, why did I get cancer? But none of my doctors had good answers for me. I wanted answers, and that's why I started this podcast. I want to help you to lower your cancer risk and provide self-care tips for those in the battle. I'm getting answers, and I want to share them with you. Hi, friends. Welcome to my first ever life update. It's been 4 years since my cancer diagnosis, and I get questions all the time. How has my life changed since cancer? And it's changed pretty dramatically, and in other ways, hasn't changed at all. So what I thought I'd do is kind of break this down into 3 different parts and also try to answer all of the questions that I have received over the last few months. So I'm going to tell you about what I eat every day and how that's changed post-cancer. My new habits, like what I do every day. And that has, I got to tell you, that has changed so dramatically post-cancer. And thirdly, just kind of a life update and how my life has changed since my cancer diagnosis on September 1st, 2020. 4 years feels like it has flown by. And then in other ways, it feels like it hasn't flown by. So first of all, life update, I continue to do surveillance. I did have a mastectomy, if you don't recall, and an implant. And I've been having a lot of issues with the implants. I'm actually considering doing a microsurgery or deep flap where they basically make a new breast out of my tissue. So basically, like part of me becomes a breast and then the implant is taken out and the new breast put in. I've just had a lot of issues. It's currently in a folded over position, which causes me a lot of pain and discomfort. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I look down and I see this implant and I just want my old body back. And I can't have my own body back. So what I need to figure out is how do I make peace with my body for the next 40 years, 50 years that I have on the planet and just really being at peace with it. So that's something as a life update that I'm working on. I'm going to talk a lot about stress because that is an area that has really dramatically changed for me. Some days are better than others. But when people ask me, what have you really focused on in your cancer journey and cancer prevention journey? I will say stress is the big one. I wasn't good at managing stress. And I know that now, even though I thought, well, I'm exercising and, I'm eating right. I'm doing all the things that you've heard me talk about. Stress was an area that got away from me. It just did. It got away from me. And I let it become kind of this, giant snowball rolling down the side of a mountain, and it would just accelerate. And then I'd get to this point where I wasn't sleeping without medication, over the counter or prescription. And, once your sleep goes, your health really is not far behind. So stress is one of those areas that I've really worked on. And one of my original OG podcast guests was Dr. Lee Erin Keneally, and she has a cancer center in Orange County, California. And honestly, I send so many people there because I think she's just so brilliant. Her whole team is brilliant. We talked a lot about stress on our podcast, and she said, it takes about 10 years for a cancer to grow to the point where it can be diagnosed. And she said, so when you think about being diagnosed with cancer, think back to, what were you doing 10 years? What was going on in your life 10 years before that? And I really gave it some thought with my diagnosis in 2020. And I looked back 10 years before, and I'd had some pretty traumatic health experiences. 2 of them where I had 2 miscarriages, and my husband and I had been trying to have kids for quite some time. And I had a miscarriage at a little over 3 months. And there are times I really think that I've probably never gotten over that. Because at that point I'd kind of aged out of being able to have children. And when I look at that, that was such a huge stress in my life. I didn't know how to process it. I don't think I ever really talked to anybody about it. I think I was just, stoic and like, this is just the way things go and just move on. And, that probably wasn't the smartest thing I've ever done. Basically, if something is taking up headspace, take a look at it. And that had taken up headspace for years. So if you think about it in the middle of the night when you get up to go to the bathroom, or you wake up in the morning and you're thinking about something or someone, I think that's just a real indication that maybe it's time to take a little look at that. And do you need to clean up anything with a person? Like, are you harboring unforgiveness, including unforgiveness of yourself? And I think that was another big piece for me is I had to forgive myself during that season. Because, of course, when you have a miscarriage, you end up blaming yourself. And that's not the right way to go. So, so that was a really big stress. And then a couple of years later, my dad got very sick with heart disease and passed away. And there was just a season of an incredible amount of stress. I didn't deal with it well. I dealt with it by probably, doing a lot of emotional eating and just not processing. So that's one of my big takeaways post-cancer is stay focused on forgiveness and figure out how to process the junk out of your head. Because once it's in your head, one thing I have learned from numerous conversations with podcast guests, once it's in your head, it is going to end up someplace in your body. And there's a great book called The Body Keeps the Score. And think about that. Your body is always listening to your thoughts, to your words. So figure out a way to just live in more peace and live in more forgiveness. I quote my friend Heather, when it comes to forgiveness, I quote her quite often. And I recently had some things going on in my personal life. And she said, unforgiveness is like having this giant backpack with all these rocks in it. And each rock represents either a situation or a person you need to forgive. Again, it could even be yourself. And she said, every day you got to dump the rocks out of your backpack. So I know this and I love the visual. In fact, I even put a backpack on with some heavy things in it. And I thought, oh my gosh, when you've got a lot of heavy stuff in your backpack, it kills your posture. Your back hurts, your neck hurts. You can't breathe as well because you're kind of hunched over. So I love the visual of that. And so when I think about forgiving people or forgiving situations, taking the rocks out of my backpack. Sometimes there are many. And as I kind of fake and reach back into that backpack, I will name the rock. It might be a person. It might be, somebody just cutting me off in traffic and being really, mean and things like that. Take the rocks out of my backpack because even just carrying a little bit of unforgiveness, it really does end up going someplace. So that is probably one of my biggest takeaways post-cancer is really learning to manage my stress. And for me, my stress really accelerates when I stay in a place of unforgiveness. It kills my peace and it robs me of joy. And God put me on the planet to be a really joyful person. And I have learned that circumstances don't dictate my joy. God dictates my joy. And again, He has made me to be a joyful person. So I will pursue joy every day. And that might mean forgiving somebody who doesn't deserve to be forgiven. It doesn't mean we need to go sit down and have lunch, but I'm telling you, I am taking those rocks out of my backpack because it represents my peace and my joy and my love and my kindness. And I want to spread kindness, love, and joy all the time. And when I'm in a state of unforgiveness or really high levels of stress, I don't see people. I don't connect with people. And I'm probably not as kind and as generous as I could be. So again, throughout the day, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day, I'll think, okay, God, is there anybody I need to forgive? Maybe something comes to mind. I take the rocks out of my backpack and I move right on with my day. It doesn't have to take a long time. So the payoff is really big and it really protects my peace. And I will protect my peace at all costs. Okay, let's move on to category number 3, which is what do I do? I get this question all the time. And what do I do today versus 2020? I do a lot of things differently, a lot of things. So let's talk about some of those things. I have been a certified nutritionist. I've got a health science degree. I've got a degree in exercise physiology. I have been in this field since the late 80s. And I thought I had everything pretty dialed in, pretty nailed down, made a lot of really good choices. But there are things that I just didn't know about. And also, I'm going to say there are things that just sounded just a little bit too woo woo and a little bit like just too much trouble to do. I have really changed since cancer because I don't ever want to get cancer again. I don't want anything else. I want to just live my life in great joy and in great health. And I want that for you too. So there are a few things that I do now, actually quite a few things. So let's go over this list. First of all, when my alarm goes off, it's a very gentle alarm. Um, I really want to get my cell phone out of my bedroom. I haven't made the move yet to get a different type of an alarm clock, but I'm working on that. I'll keep you posted. But I do keep my phone on airplane mode. That is something that is new post cancer, so that it's not emitting a ton of EMFs, electromagnetic fields or frequencies into my bedroom. I also keep my phone about 20 feet away from my bed. Also, another really big change. When my alarm goes off, it's very gentle. I get out of bed, I turn off the alarm, and then I actually get back into bed and I breathe really well and moderately deeply for about a minute. And I feel like this really sets me up to have a lower stress level for the rest of the day. When you hear a very loud alarm clock or, a fire alarm or, police sirens, your body goes into this fight or flight mode where it's making a ton of cortisol and adrenaline. And so even just hearing an alarm clock in the morning, even when it's gentle, it'll kind of just rouse you out of this sleep and start your body making these stress hormones. So I pop back into bed for a couple of minutes. If I don't have time, that's okay. But what I do is I put my hand on my stomach, kind of on the side of my stomach, because you really want to be breathing all the way down into your hip bones where you're getting that part of your body to move. And I will breathe in and out, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. If you need to build up to that, take your time and build up to that. Because what I find that does is that really keeps me calm. And it just really allows me the headspace to kind of just wake up and wake up gently. And again, lower those stress hormones and increase my happy hormones like the serotonin and all those wonderful things. So I will do my breathing for a minute or two, walk into my kitchen. The old me just went right to coffee. The new me is a little more gentle with my system. And so what I'll do is I might kind of get the coffee stuff going, the hot water and all of that. But what I'll do now is without my phone, I will go outside barefoot on my grass, look toward the sun, walk around my yard, and really kind of pray in the day and talk to God and just be kind and gentle with myself and just allow myself to kind of slowly wake up in this beautiful kind of a grounding way by having my feet on the ground, and just this really calm and peaceful way. Here's the other thing. Going back to the coffee, one of my podcast guests, Devin Burke, who's a sleep expert, he said, if there's anything you can do to wait at least an hour before you have coffee, that will actually help you sleep better that night. Oh, I really didn't like hearing that. And I'm not quite at an hour, but I probably now, I kind of get up, I do my breathing routine, I go outside, I look toward the sun, I appreciate nature, I listen to birds. I mean, yeah, maybe I'm a little goofy in the morning, but I really like protecting that time because I feel like it protects my peace for the rest of the day. So it might end up being probably 30 to 40 minutes before I have my first cup of coffee. So I'll come back in the house, make my coffee, and then sometimes I'll just go back outside, drink my coffee, kind of just, do a little bit more breathing. it might sound like this is taking hours, but let me just tell you, I'm going to make coffee anyway. Even the old me was making coffee. The biggest change is I move a little bit slower. I'm a little bit more appreciative. I'm more grateful. I focus more on God's plan for my day rather than having a list of 50 things in my head that I want to accomplish for the day. Because a lot of the things that I want to accomplish are maybe not things that he wants me to accomplish. So I really do take the time to check in and make sure that I'm not overdoing it. I love to make lists. I've got lists on every scrap of paper that I have in my house. Now when I make a list, which I'll do after my coffee, I don't make it as big, or I'll prioritize. Like I might make the big list, but then I'll have A's and B's and C's. A's are things that need to happen that day. B maybe could be the next day. C, if I get to it, I get to it. So I don't run myself as hard as I used to. And that has been actually a really cool way to live my life. And I find that it overlaps into all of my relationships. I'm proud of moving a little slower than I used to. And I'm 59. I don't want to say I've had my season of just like running around like a chicken with my head cut off, because I don't think that's really a healthy way to look at life. But what I'm proud now with having this wisdom and life experience is I just don't need to move as fast as I used to move, because when you move fast, you end up making a lot of mistakes, and then you have to go and you have to repair the mistakes. So what if this new way of living, what if I just slowed down a little bit, focus a little bit more on my breathing, stay focused on what God wants for me and what my list might look like for the day, where I'm more generous and kind to the people that I meet. And I end up accomplishing so much more in a shorter amount of time, which I think is pretty darn cool. Okay, so I have my list for the day. Let's talk a little bit about how I used to kind of schedule my meals versus now. I'm going to talk in the third segment about what I'm actually eating, but what I'm going to say is I used to be very focused on intermittent fasting, and I really felt like it worked for me until it didn't. And when it didn't work for me so great was deep in the throes of menopause, when I was forced into menopause by getting breast cancer. I literally got diagnosed one day. I had to stop all of my hormones and then immediately started having hot flashes the next day. And then I felt like I didn't sleep for 4 years, still working on the sleep part. So I don't intermittent fast anymore, but what I do is I do intuitive eating. And that's going to change every day. So I might get up, for the most part, I'm up every day by 6:30 or 7. I might get up at 7 and be ravenous. So I eat breakfast. I might get up at 7 and I'm not hungry until 9. That's when I eat breakfast. So I've tried to really stay focused on what my body needs that day. And that is really working for me. And that's working for my menopause body, and it's working for my menopause brain. And that has made a really big difference. So again, in the third segment, we'll talk a little bit more about what I'm eating on a daily basis. But so I do a little bit more intuitive eating, which really works for me. And then here's the other thing that I have learned from so many different podcast guests, including Dr. Josh Axe, Lee Aaron Keneally, who I've already mentioned her, Jen Bricker-Bauer, the power of connecting with your community. And I would say the old me before cancer was so focused on working really hard and, quite honestly, kind of performing, meaning working really hard so that people could see me working really hard. And that's where my value came from, was, people telling me I was a really hard worker and I don't drop any balls and I do this. And I mean, it's exhausting being that person. And so the new me drops balls. Darn it. I do. The new me is not a perfectionist. I do excellent work, but I don't strive for perfection. I don't strive to be a perfect worker, but excellent is good. I don't always nail excellent. But here's what I'm doing now is I'm spending more time each day connecting with people. I have found it very easy in my life to kind of just silo and just stay focused, stay working. And then at the end of the day, I'm just too tired to get together with friends. The new me is much more connected, even if it's going to a coffee shop and talking to the person who is making me a latte. There's so much to be learned and, from talking to different people, asking about their life experiences and just being generous with my time, meaning seeing people, looking at people, hearing them, hearing what they're saying, what they're not saying. And I really enjoy that. I really enjoy connecting with people. I spend more time with friends now. I spend more time with family, and I really make it a priority. And when I'm with them, I work really hard to turn my phone onto airplane mode, turn it off, have it upside down. I know there are times my husband's trying to get a hold of me and I'm out walking with a girlfriend and my phone's on airplane mode, but he'll call her if he to say, hey, can you have her pick up? Because I just don't want to be on my phone as much as I used to be. So that's been also a really fun blessing. Here's a few other things, how I'm different now. I take the time to eat in peace. And what I mean by that is the old me would sit in front of my computer or on my phone or watching TV and kind of just shovel it all in, never really tasting the food because I would be eating too fast. And there's been some really interesting research on taking your time, maybe being out in nature. Even if you're not in nature, you live in a high rise, but you're looking out the window as you're eating. All these things can help to calm you down, which allows your body to grab more nutrients from the food that you are eating. I can't tell you how important this is. So one of the things I do now is I take the time to eat in peace. I prepare a meal, or even if it's takeout, I plate it up and I don't eat it while I'm standing in my kitchen. I will go find a nice, quiet place to sit down and I will enjoy my meal in peace without my phone. I used to think that I was saving a lot of time by eating in front of my laptop at lunchtime, especially. I could read 3 or 4 studies and, be ready to start my afternoon with a client or whatever was the case may be. But I'm telling you, it does not save you time. It adds stress to your day. And when you rush through your meals during the day, what ends up happening is there's a rebound impact at night where you feel like you need to eat a Thanksgiving dinner at night because you just didn't take the time to appreciate, to smell, to look at your food during the day. And I was an epic nighttime eater. I'm going to go ahead and confess that to you right now. Also, before I got breast cancer, I was diagnosed with GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease. It was shocking to me that I had that diagnosis, terrible acid reflux. And after talking to many doctors and doing a lot of research, what I realized is I was eating so much in the evening. I'd eat fast. I would drink way too much fluid with my meals. And then I'd snack after dinner because I wasn't necessarily, my body wasn't hungry, but what was hungry was my brain because it never really enjoyed food during the day. It just kind of ate to check a box, but we want to appreciate food. We want to smell it. We want to, look at it. And so slowing down during the day, taking the time to eat breakfast, taking the time to eat a good lunch, not in front of the television or in front of my laptop, has allowed me to be more peaceful in the evening and not feel like I'm just constantly, sticking food in my mouth. So that has also been really a good thing that I'm doing now. Okay, so here's a couple of the goofier things that I'm doing that I'm telling you are working for me and they're working for my husband. We both really are challenged sleepers. Actually, so he falls asleep right away. He says it's because he was in the army and you just have to learn to sleep fast. So there's that. But I'll get into bed and I'll just kind of churn and burn for an hour. And I'm thinking about my day and how I wish I would have handled this in a different way. And I wish I would have handled that in a different way. There's a lot of reasons why we do that. And part of that is just controlling your mind. But I will say there are other issues at stake, and that is too much screen time in the evening or just too much light at night. We don't have a lot of overhead LED lights in our house. But it's an unnatural type of a light, and it can stir you up, and it can, your body can create more stress hormones, which when your body's busy creating stress hormones, it's not going to create happy hormones, the calm and peaceful serotonin and melatonin, because it's thinking, oh my gosh, I got to keep Deb going. She's got to get to work. She's got to do this. No, I don't want to be like that anymore. So here's a couple of the things that we're doing around here now. We got blue light blockers, and they are these red clip-ons that we put onto our reading glasses or our distance glasses if we want to watch a movie. But at night, your eyeballs see a lot of blue light. It's from cell phones, TVs, laptops, iPads. When your body sees that light, it thinks, oh my gosh, I need to start making adrenaline and cortisol to get this person revved up so that they can have, a really high energy day. That's awesome during the middle of the day, but I don't want that happening at 9 o'clock at night. So I clip these blue light blockers onto my regular glasses, and it allows me to still, like if I want to check my phone, I can still check my phone. It's going to help to knock down that blue light so it doesn't impact my brain. I will tag the product. It's Bon Charge. I really like the brand. I actually have quite a few items from them. Here's the other thing that I know you're going to think is woo-woo, because I thought it was woo-woo too. Podcast with Dr. Henry Ely. Super brilliant guy, naturopath and an engineer. I mean, his list of experience is long. His intelligence and wisdom was incredible. I just learned so much from him. And he was talking to me about grounding sheets. So the earth has a charge. And we actually do really well when we are kind of charged up by the earth. How do we get charged up by the earth? We walk on grass. We walk in dirt. We jump into a lake. We stand near a waterfall, or we stand near a body of water. There's lots of ways that our body will kind of recharge its batteries by being out in nature. But what if you live in a high rise? What if even maybe it's not a high rise, but you're surrounded by, 5G towers and your neighbor has their Wi-Fi going, or there's just a lot of EMFs in your area. So he suggested using grounding sheets, and one of the reasons why is he said his sleep has dramatically changed due to the grounding sheets. So grounding sheets will help to grab an electrical charge from the earth. And what that does is it helps to lower levels of inflammation in your body. It helps your body to create more happy hormones. It really knocks down the impact of EMFs. When you're around a lot of EMFs, so maybe you don't turn your Wi-Fi router off at night, or you sleep too close to the Wi-Fi router, what happens is your body doesn't make as much melatonin and serotonin as it could. So I love these grounding sheets. The brand he suggested is the one actually I ended up buying because I just trusted his judgment. They're called Ground Lux. What I like about them is they're organic, and it's really important for me to stay focused on organic items in my home, especially if it's something I'm going to spend a third of my life on. I want it to be organic. So I got the grounding sheet. So woven throughout the sheets are silver threads. And that's what helps to make these grounding sheets really work. Then you plug it into the wall. It's not turned on like it's electrical. It's not like an electric blanket, but you do ground it in the wall. So you need to be near an outlet. I probably didn't do a very good job explaining it, but I am going to tag our podcast that I did with Dr. Ely, so you can really understand what we were talking about. But I will tell you, we've started doing this in the last couple of months, and it took a little while, probably took a week for my body to get used to the grounding sheets. But now I just feel like I don't sleep well without them. And I now can make it all the way through the night without even getting up to go to the bathroom. Like I actually end up sleeping through the night. So I'm really grateful that I found these grounding sheets. You know what? When you're desperate for sleep, you'll try anything. And that's where my husband and I were. We were desperate to be better sleepers. So it's working for us. Okay, a couple more things that I do now that I didn't do then, meaning then was back when I got diagnosed with cancer. I have become a better breather. I think I wasn't a great breather. And breathing is really obviously your source for your life, but also it's your source for health. I grew up on a nut farm in Northern California, and I had a lot of allergies to the things that we grew. So I grew up with childhood asthma, and I think I just got used to breathing the asthmatic way, which was what's called a rescue breathing, where you're really just kind of breathing up into the top, like your shoulders, your collarbones up into that area. I wasn't really good at bringing breath all the way down to the lower lobes of my lungs, which is really down, like at the bottom of your ribs, near your hip bones. So a couple things that I've done. One, I'm an avid yogi, and I'll probably take at least one or two, if not three yoga classes per week because it forces me to breathe. It's a great reminder to breathe. I don't have to go to a class. Sometimes I just watch YouTube videos, but being on my yoga mat really just helps me to reconnect with my body and with my breath. But I also highly recommend a book. It's called Breathe by James Nestor. And the book is incredible. He talks a lot about people who are mouth breathers, doing things like using mouth tape, making sure that you don't have sleep apnea. So he kind of goes through this whole list, and he also really explains his process of how he used to be so sick before he learned to become a better breather. Now he breathes properly and hasn't been sick in a really long time. Here's the other thing that I did. I listened to the book on Audible. I'm a big fan of Audible because I can listen to it while I'm cooking or when I'm driving or when I'm out for a walk. And it also, again, I just like to hear the author. And then the other thing that I did is James Nestor has a special. I think it's a 20 module special on BBC Maestro, which I think is like UK version of Masterclass. And I bought it for my husband for Christmas. I don't have any coupons for you, but just kind of keep an eye out. They seem to always have good deals. And I'm telling you, this 20 module lesson is so easy to watch. The takeaways are really basic. He's really funny and, just kind of has a dry sense of humor, which I really appreciate. And it actually just makes me want to be a better breather. So I have changed my breathing a lot. And instead of just, after work, after dinner, the kitchen's clean, instead of just sitting down and watching TV, what I'll do is maybe for 10 minutes, I will just focus on breathing. I might just lay flat on my back, put my legs up on the sofa, pillow under my head, put my hands on my rib cage, and just really focus on some of the breathing techniques that I have learned through this BBC Maestro class and reading the book Breathe by James Nestor. So one of the things that I really like is, I don't remember what he called it, but it's basically like 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. I couldn't do that at first. Like doing a 6 second out was hard for me. So he said, start where you are. Maybe it's 2 seconds in, 2 seconds out. Then you build up to 3 and 3 and 4 and 5. So now I'm up to 6, and I find this breath really helpful, really simple. And I find it almost instantly calming. Like when I do this breathing for a couple of minutes before bed, I feel like I've had a little glass of wine. I mean, it really helps to calm me down. So I love that. These are simple things that do not cost you any money. And I have a great chiropractor I'm seeing now. And I came in the other day and I was just really stressed out, really maxed out. I had a lot of things going on with work. And he said, we're just going to put you in the gym. You're going to lay flat on your back and you're just going to breathe for 5 minutes and then we'll talk. And then I'll adjust you. And I thought, wow, okay, these are the types of things that I tell other people. And somebody's telling me I better pay attention. But it was really cool to just have somebody recognize my need and tell me I just needed to focus on my breathing for 5 minutes and calm down. I did that. I tell you, the whole rest of my day got better. So there is power in breath. There's power in doing it right, meaning you're not breathing up in your chest, you're breathing, taking the air low, taking it down to the lower lobes of your lungs. And it really just makes all the difference. So these are the things that I do now. I keep it pretty simple. Some of them, I know the grounding sheets maybe don't sound so simple, but the rest of these practices, if you go back and listen, the thread that connects them all is slowing down, breathing a little bit more, being out in nature and connecting with people. Most of these don't cost any money, and I hope you find some real value in these. Start small. I didn't do all these things in one day. If there's one place I would start, it would be taking off your shoes, going outside first thing in the morning for 2 or 3 minutes without your phone and just appreciating the surroundings around you. If you live in a place where you can't go outside, go look out your window first thing in the morning and just, find things that you can appreciate that, are around you. And just that level of appreciation first thing in the morning can really set the tone for the rest of your day. Okay, if you've been a fan of this podcast for any length of time, you know that I can be a little bit woo-woo and then a little bit skeptical. And I think that's a really healthy place for me to be. So here's the woo-woo part. I had a podcast guest on, Dr. Henry Ely, and he told me about these grounding sheets by Ground Lux. Then I got a little bit skeptical and I read a lot of research and I thought, you know what, is this a little bit too good to be true? Because it's kind of woo-woo. I mean, I am literally taking these sheets. There's a little connector that then I've got a 15-foot cord that plugs in to an outlet. So I bought them. I admit I bought them and I have to tell you, I am sleeping better. It took about a week for me to maybe get used to it. And when I say I'm plugging it in, it's not like it's an electric blanket, but the silver threads make it more grounded to the earth. So it's going to be a similar sensation inside your body. You're not going to feel anything, but to a similar sensation to walking on the grass or jumping in a lake, where it just grounds you to nature and it really helps to lower inflammation. It helps to create more happy hormones. And in my case, I have noticed a difference in some aches and pains with my 59-year-old body, but also that I'm sleeping better. Sometimes I can make it all the way through the night without waking up, which is a shocker for me. So I've jumped on the grounding sheet train and I'm really enjoying it. So I want to tell you about it. And I want to tell you about this kind of crazy special that they have, but it's a time sensitive one because once they run out, they're telling me that it has to be over. So through the end of September or until supplies run out, if you use the code FREEMATDEBRA, you can get a free twin sleep mattress pad that just goes under any kind of a sheet and is going to do the same type of grounding. It's $150 value, and you get that for free if you order $200 worth of their product. They're also telling me you can stack any kind of codes on top of it and get discounts, but you have to hit that 200 point to be able to get the free sleep mat. So again, Ground Lux, I've got all the link in the show notes. Then use the code FREEMATDEBRA to get your free grounding sleep mat, which I'm actually going to do because we have a spare bedroom and I want to have one on there too for guests. So groundlux.com. Enjoy. Okay, what do I eat? Loaded question. I'm a certified nutritionist. I eat a lot of things, and I also really love me a good hamburger. You probably didn't expect that. I eat a lot of plants. I eat 90+% of my diet is organic. A lot of reasons for that. First of all, I grew up on a little farm in Northern California, and this was the late 70s, early 80s. There was a lot of glyphosate, which is the active ingredient in Roundup that was used in that area. And currently I live in a place where people really love to spray their yards. I got a glyphosate test through my naturopath about a month ago, and I'm in the 95th percentile. That's not the good direction. And so I'm working really hard to get glyphosate out of my body because it's not doing it any favors. And one of the things that I need to focus on is continuing to make sure I eat a mainly organic diet. So I am doing that. So anything I do eat, I either grow. I have a pretty good sized garden. I grow a lot of our fruits and vegetables, or a lot of our vegetables. But then I also go to the farmer's market. And then, of course, I still do big box stores like Costco and Trader Joe's and things. But again, 90% of the foods that I consume are organic. I I cook a lot. I eat at home, which is so much easier to control your environment versus eating out. But here's what I'll say about what I'm eating. I eat with great joy. I eat with happiness. I eat with reckless abandon. And that's the way we should all be eating. It is a pleasure. It is something that we absolutely get to do every day. And it's just such a wonderful thing to happen. Eating is truly one of the great pleasures of life. So, what do I eat? Okay, I eat a lot of really high quality fruits and vegetables. I eat some carbohydrates. When I do eat carbohydrates, it's rice. And sourdough bread. And I like sourdough because it's fermented. And when it's fermented, it's got a lower gluten level at that point. So I eat a lot of fermented foods. That is really very prominent in my diet. According to Sally Fallon Morell of the Weston A. Price Foundation, she says that 2 tablespoons of fermented food every day is the equivalent of an entire bottle of probiotics. And I used to take probiotics every day. I don't as much anymore because I eat so many fermented foods. So I like sauerkraut on top of a baked sweet potato or on top of tacos or on top of a salad. I mean, sauerkraut, kimchi, experiment. I really turned my nose up at fermented foods for a really long time. But now after cancer, I'm eating them on almost a daily basis. Let's just kind of go through my day. So I told you I'm more of an intuitive eater now. I don't follow a lot of rules with eating. And can I tell you how wonderful it is to have freedom with food? So that is one of my great pleasures in life. So for breakfast, I might have, I have a little bit of an egg sensitivity. So I will have duck eggs versus chicken eggs. According to my naturopath, that's a better option for me. But either way, like eggs are great. It's just a fantastic high nutrient food. I'll usually have that with maybe on top of a salad. Yes, sometimes I do that for breakfast, or with a piece of sourdough toast and some leftover broccoli from the night before. Or sometimes I'll do it with beans. I really believe in high protein first thing in the day. That really helps to get my body going in the right direction. I'll have that. Sometimes, I mean, I do enjoy full fat Greek yogurt and full fat, just really good high quality yogurt mixed with a little cottage cheese, some chia seeds, and maybe some berries on top. Lunch is usually a pretty solid protein. I do try to make lunch my bigger meal of the day. And then I try to wrap it up early evening where I'm not eating a whole lot in the evening. So lunch might be a really big salad. I don't like a lot of raw vegetables. Actually, they don't always like me. So what I'll do on the weekends is I'll cook up and roast maybe a whole head of cauliflower and some onions and garlic, broccoli, radishes, you name it. And then I'll just put that chopped roasted vegetables on top of a green salad with some sort of a protein and maybe a little bit of a carbohydrate, like a little bit of rice on the bottom of the bowl. I do a lot of bowls. They make me really happy. Afternoon, usually I'll have maybe a handful of berries or an apple and maybe a little bit of yogurt. Dinner is often soup. Even in the heat of summer, I will do soup. I like to make soups. I like it when other people make me soup, which doesn't happen very often. Wink, wink, husband. You can cook a little bit more than you do, but moving on from there. But I do like soups. And what I like about soups is it retains so many of the nutrients because they're not going anywhere. It's all in the soup. If I do a bowl, I'm going to do another, a little bit of rice on the bottom, lots of veggies and a great protein. This is why having a really good protein source is so important to me. I eat a lot of salmon. I eat a lot of ground beef. I eat ground chicken, chicken thighs, and I get everything from ButcherBox. That's why I'm so thrilled that they are one of my sponsors, because I literally use their products every day without fail. I'm an animal protein person. I feel better on animal protein. So I'm not giving you advice. I'm just saying, pay more attention to how you feel after eating a meal. I just mentioned that sometimes I'll do yogurt and cottage cheese for breakfast, but I also have to tell you that I'm hungry again in about an hour and a half. So what that tells me is that's a good snack for me, but it's not a good meal. A meal should really keep you full for about 3 to 3.5 hours. So when I have a couple of eggs, piece of sourdough, maybe some grilled veggies, I'm full for almost 4 hours. That's a great meal for me. And then I track my energy. How's my brain performance? Do I feel like I'm firing on all cylinders? Is my energy good? Could I go for a walk? Could I go for a surf or go take an exercise class? If all those things are true, then that is a really good meal for me. There are certain things I eat that just make me feel, kind of a little bit polluted. And that's usually ends up being a lot of sugar. That's the one thing that I really try to stay away from. I don't eat anywhere near the sugar that I used to before cancer. It was nothing for me back in the day to have a giant bag of chocolate chips, not the cookies, mind you, just a bag of chocolate chips in my pantry. And in the evening, every time I'd walk by the pantry, open the door, grab a handful, like that is a lot of chocolate chips. So I know that sugar and cancer are really good friends, and I want to break up that relationship. So I just don't eat anywhere near the amount of sugar I used to. A few other things that I've really focused on cutting out. A lot of seed oils, canola, sunflower, safflower, they're just highly inflammatory and they're just not something our body is used to consuming. So really good fats is where I focus. So I love using ghee. I cook just about all of my meals with ghee, clarified butter, grass-fed, grass-finished. I like coconut oil, avocado oil, really good olive oil. So I'm very picky about the fats that go into my body, and I make sure that I always pick really good ones. And then when I go to a restaurant, I just enjoy myself because I eat at home so much that I just feel like I can just kind of do whatever I want and not worry about it. And I think that's the point I want to get across to you today is, whatever the food that's in front of you, you do the best that you can. And other than that, you enjoy every morsel. Let it bring you great happiness and joy and satiety and satisfaction. That's what food is here for. It's for all of those things. So even if I'm at the airport and maybe I forgot to bring my stainless steel water bottle and I have to buy a water bottle with, a plastic water bottle, I don't look at the water bottle and think, oh my gosh, there's so many nanoplastics and microplastics that is going into my system. I just have to change my train of thought, change my mindset, and just think, okay, this water it's getting rid of a need. I'm thirsty. I'm just going to enjoy the water. So there's a lot to be said for just enjoying the things that are in front of you. I feel like I'm getting very philosophical, so we better wrap up. I love the people that are in my life. And I always told our kids, people are like elevators. They either take you up or they take you down. And all the people that are in my life are all up elevators. Post cancer, if there were any people who were the down elevator, I just slowly kind of move them to the outer edge of my circle. And life is short, and I choose to spend time with people who bring me great joy, and I can also be generous and bring them great joy. I hope you have enjoyed this podcast. I certainly enjoyed sharing and answering some of the questions that I get asked a lot. And be well, and God bless you. Okay, I don't know what the weather's like where you are, but I am telling you, it is getting cold here in Washington. I feel like we're going to have an early winter, and I think it's actually happening. So I hope I didn't prophesy that. But anyway, as winter starts to happen, I transition from eating salads and raw foods to eating more savory, warm and savory and salty and all the things kinds of food, because I get cold in the winter like a lot of you, and eating warmer foods feels like it just fuels my energy and makes me feel better. So this is how I'm transitioning. Instead of salads, I'm now doing more veggie bowls. So I often will take ground beef. It's easy to keep in your freezer, defrost fairly quickly, and then I'll cook it up. I'll put rice on the bottom of the bowl. I'll have a lot of roasted vegetables on top of that, and then a little bit of the ground beef on top. Little drizzle of olive oil or vinegar and oil, and you have got yourself the most fabulous meal. If you want to get fancy, crumble a little feta cheese and maybe chop some parsley on top. Your stomach will thank you. And my friends at ButcherBox are making this really easy for you to do by offering my community $30 off of your first box. I'm just going to stop right there and tell you they're not doing that for anybody else. Go ahead and do an online search. You're going to realize they're so good to me. So you get $30 off of your first box. And then bonus, you get free choose your own protein in every box for up to a year. And so the choose your own protein, you get a choice of wild Alaskan salmon. Honestly, who doesn't love that? Lots of recipes on my blog if you want to see how I cook it. The grass-fed, grass-finished ground beef, or chicken breast, which I make a lot of chicken noodle soup in the winter, and then I just freeze it in single serving sizes. And it's just a great, super easy dinner that I just have to defrost. So go to butcherbox.com/Enos, use the code Enos, get this great deal. So hope you enjoy this special. Hey y'all, can you do me a favor today and go and leave a review of this podcast? I know that the more great reviews, wink, wink, emphasis on great, reviews that I get, along with more downloads and more subscribers, that pushes this podcast out to people who might normally not even find it. And the reason I started this podcast, and my real heart for starting this podcast, is that I needed this information. It wasn't available. And so I started a podcast so that I could be a blessing to others. So you're a blessing to me just by being here. And again, thank you for your support. Thank you for your positive reviews and all of the notes that you send me. And also just wanted to say, hey, keep in mind, I'm not a doctor. And if you need medical advice, please reach out to your team. That is going to be just the best source for you because they know you. So again, I hope you enjoy this podcast.